My name is Dr. Alex Harper. 18 years ago, I graduated top of my class from UC Davis, and ever since, I've lived with one foot in the human world and one foot in the world of big cats. I've stitched up tigers in Thailand, darted cheetahs in Namibia, and I used to run the entire feline medicine program at the San Diego Zoo Safari Park. I've seen lions take down buffalo twice their size. I've watched mothers carry dead cubs for days, refusing to let go. I thought I knew everything there was to know about Panthera leo, until one Texas morning proved me wrong. Summer 2022. Central Texas. The Lion Ridge Sanctuary sits on 2,000 acres of rolling cedar and live oak hills, an hour outside Austin. It's one of the few places in America where a pride lives almost completely wild. No nightly lockups. No feeding stations you can see from the tour jeep. At the heart of that pride was a male we simply called King. 480 pounds of scarred muscle, black-tipped mane blowing like a battle flag, eyes the color of burnt honey. He had killed 2 keepers before the sanctuary even opened its gates to the public. Everyone knew the rule. No human ever steps inside the main enclosure on foot. Ever. That rule lasted exactly until 4:17 a.m. on July 14th, when my phone lit up. It was the sanctuary owner, voice shaking. A flash storm had ripped through the night before. Lightning, torrential rain, creeks turning into rivers in minutes. King's favorite cub, Prince, a rare white 9-month-old who carried the future of the entire bloodline, had been playing too close to the ravine when the bank gave way. He fell 40 feet, landed on a narrow rock shelf above a drop that went straight down into floodwater. One front leg bent at a sickening angle, whimpering, barely moving. They had a helicopter on standby in San Antonio, but it couldn't lift off until first light, and even then the downdraft inside that ravine would probably finish the cub before the harness ever reached him. The owner asked the question no one wanted to ask. "Alex, is there any chance you could get down there on foot before the bird arrives?" I stared at the satellite image he sent. One thin game trail. 500 acres of pride territory between the gate and that ravine. And King would already know something was wrong with his son. He would be listening for cries. He would be waiting. I've been in dangerous situations before. I've had sedated lions wake up early. I've been charged by females protecting newborns. But this was different. If I opened that inner gate and walked in, there was no fence between me and 17 adult lions who already considered humans a threat. One roar from King, and the entire pride would come running. I told the owner I'd be there in 45 minutes. I hung up, and for the first time in 18 years, my hands shook while I loaded my vet pack. Because I already knew what I was about to do. I was about to break the only rule that had ever kept me alive. I left the tranquilizer rifle in the truck. If I carried it, I might be tempted to use it. And if I shot King, even with a dart, any trust that might still exist between us would die forever. So just me, a climbing rope, a headlamp, and a small medical kit. As I rolled up the dirt road just before dawn, the sky was the color of a fresh bruise. The air smelled like wet cedar and ozone. I could already hear him, faint, broken little cries echoing off the limestone walls of the ravine. I stood at the inner gate. My finger hovered over the keypad. One code, and there was no turning back. I whispered the only thing that felt honest in that moment. "I'm coming, little man. Just hold on." I punched in the numbers. The gate clicked open, and I stepped inside alone. The second that gate latched behind me, the world went quiet. Not peaceful quiet. The kind of quiet that happens right before lightning hits. I took maybe 10 steps, and the grass moved. Not wind. Lionesses. 6 of them, materializing out of the cedar shadows like ghosts, forming a silent half-circle 20 yards ahead. Their ears were forward, tails twitching. Watching. Waiting for King to decide what I was. And then I saw him. He was standing on the ridge above the ravine, exactly where I knew he would be. A mountain of gold against the purple sky. His massive head lowered, mane bristling, staring straight down at me. Even from 100 yards away I felt it. That stare that says you have about 3 seconds to justify your existence. I kept my hands open and visible. No sudden moves. Voice low. "Easy, big man. I'm here for the baby." He didn't blink. I started walking again, slow, toward the ravine. Every step felt like miles. I could hear my pulse in my ears, thump, thump, matching the rhythm of 17 sets of paws shifting in the grass behind me. Halfway there, The first cub cry floated up, weak, desperate. King's ears flicked. He took one step down the slope, then another. I was still 50 yards from the edge when the roar came. It wasn't loud. It was low, rolling, the kind of sound you feel in your bone marrow. The lionesses dropped flat, and King charged. 480 pounds coming straight at me, dust exploding under his paws. I had maybe 4 seconds. I could have turned and sprinted for the fence. I could have dropped and played dead. Instead, I did the stupidest thing I've ever done in my life. I kept walking toward the edge, toward his cub. He closed the distance faster than anything that size should move. 20 yards. 10. I saw his eyes, burning, furious, terrified for his son. I dropped the rope coil, raised both empty hands, and spoke the only words that came out. I'm trying to save him, King. I swear on my life. I'm here to bring him home. He skidded to a stop 5 feet away, so close I could smell the iron on his breath, feel the heat rolling off him. His shoulders were above my head. One swipe and it would be over. We stood there, man and lion, breathing the same air, the entire pride frozen around us. And that's when I crossed the point of no return. I turned my back on 480 pounds of apex predator, walked the last 20 yards to the edge, and looked down. 40 feet below, on a narrow ledge slick with mud, little Prince was curled in a trembling white ball. One front leg bent wrong, eyes swollen almost shut. When he saw me, he let out the weakest, most heartbreaking sound I've ever heard. I didn't think. I just tied the rope to the strongest cedar I could find, threw the rest over the edge, and started climbing down into that ravine, knowing King was watching every move. I was halfway down when the shadow fell over me. Time just stopped. I was hanging 25 feet down the cliff face, fingers burning on the rope, when I felt the heat above me. I looked up. King was standing at the very edge, silhouetted against the dawn. His huge paws right where my rope disappeared into the dirt. One twitch of a claw, and he could have cut me loose. Sent me straight to the rocks below. But he didn't. He lowered his head, slowly, until that massive muzzle was inches from my face across the void. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. All I could do was stare into those amber eyes and wait to die. And then, he did something no one has ever recorded a wild lion doing. He nudged the rope, gently, once, like he was testing it, making sure it would hold. Then he backed up 2 steps, sad, and looked straight down at me. A low rumble rolled out of his chest. Not a roar, not a growl, something softer, something that sounded almost like, please. I swear my heart cracked open right there. I kept descending, hand under hand, boots scraping limestone, every second expecting the pride to explode, for teeth to close on my neck from behind. But nothing came, because King was standing guard. I reached the ledge, dropped the last 4 feet. Prince tried to stand when he saw me, collapsed with a cry. I scooped him up, 90 pounds of soaked, shaking cub, and pressed him against my chest. He buried his face in my neck like a house cat, tiny heart hammering against mine. I whispered into his wet fur, I've got you, buddy. I've got you. Getting back up was harder. 90 pounds on my chest, one arm around him, the other pulling us up the rope inch by inch. My shoulders screamed. Blood ran from rope burns on my palms. Halfway up I looked again. King hadn't moved. He just watched, every muscle still, waiting. When my hand finally grasped the top edge, when I hauled myself and Prince over the lip and collapsed on solid ground. I was crying. Couldn't help it. I laid the cub gently in the grass. He tried to crawl toward his father, dragging the broken leg. And King did the last thing I ever expected. He walked forward. Slow. Deliberate. Stopped 3 feet away. And then, the king of the entire pride, lowered his massive head until his mane brushed the dirt. A bow. Not a stretch. Not a play bow. A full, deep bow of submission and gratitude. One by one, every lioness in the half-circle followed. 17 golden bodies, lowering their heads in perfect, silent unison. I couldn't speak. Couldn't move. All I could do was kneel there in the dust, Prince whimpering against my side, while an entire kingdom of lions showed me respect no human had ever earned. The sanctuary's motion cameras caught everything in crystal-clear 4K, 17 different angles. Within hours, the owner uploaded the raw footage with a single caption. This is what really happened. It broke the internet. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing. CNN, BBC, National Geographic, Everybody wanted the guy who'd been bowed to by a Lion King. But the questions that mattered came from the experts. Dr. Maria Valdez from San Diego Zoo flew in the same week. She sat me down, played the footage frame by frame. "Look at his left front pad," she said, zooming in. "That scar. That's from the abscess drainage I watched you do 6 years ago when he was at the rescue facility in California before he came here. He remembers you, Alex. He knows you're the one who made the pain stop." They called it an extreme displacement behavior, submission triggered by overwhelming relief mixed with an old positive association. Science speak for. The lion recognized the human who once helped him and chose gratitude over territory. Prince's leg healed clean. 8 weeks in a splint, and he was running again, snow white against the green Texas grass. And King started doing something no one could explain at first. Every morning I came back to check on the cub. King would be waiting at the inner gate. Not pacing, not roaring, waiting. When I stepped inside, he would walk beside me all the way to the recovery pen like an escort. The sanctuary changed the rule because of what the cameras saw. 1 human allowed inside on foot. Me. I still get chills watching the footage. Because logic can explain recognition. Logic can explain relief. But logic can't explain why 17 apex predators chose, in perfect silence, to bow to a man covered in their cub's blood. 3 years later, spring 2025, I got the call I'd been dreading. King was old. His hips were failing. One morning he just lay down in his favorite spot under the big live oak and didn't get up again. I flew in that same day. Walked out to the oak just after sunset. He was breathing slow, eyes half closed, mane silver in the fading light. I knelt, scratched behind his ears the way he always allowed only me to do. He rumbled once, soft, like he was saying it was okay. That night, he passed peacefully in his sleep. The king was gone. A month later I came back one last time, to say goodbye properly. I walked the same path I'd walked that dawn 3 years earlier. The pride saw me coming. They didn't scatter. They parted. And out of the grass came Prince. No longer a cub. 4 years old now. Almost as big as his father had been. Pure white mane starting to grow in. He walked straight to me. Stopped 2 feet away. Looked at me with those same amber eyes. I knelt, because it felt right. He lowered his head slowly, until his forehead touched mine. Then he did exactly what his father had done. He bowed. Behind him, every lioness in the pride lowered their heads too. A silent salute, from one generation to the next. I stayed there until the stars came out. Just me and a pride that had decided, a long time ago, that I belonged. Science gave me the knowledge to save a life that morning in Texas. But something bigger taught an entire pride of lions, and maybe the rest of us, that trust and gratitude don't care about species. Sometimes, when you risk everything for love, even a king will bow, and his son will remember.